Happy Monday, everyone. I just wanted to kind of comment on this week's VoiceThread. First, I've noticed a couple of you have some more sporadic and sparse comments. I do pay attention. I do have a spreadsheet that I kind of keep track of who is posting, how frequently, and sort of the quality of those posts. I will be updating the gradebook at mid-semester with your grades in that section, and mid-semester is coming up pretty quick now. And so I also wanted to sort of beyond thinking about grades, because it is worth 15% of your grade, to mention that in the past I've noticed that people who are more frequently engaged in the discussion boards tend to have higher quality end products. So just keep that in mind, that you sort of are in charge of your own learning and you will get more out of it the more that you put in. And I wanted to share my favorite comment from this week, which was from Amanda. She wrote, "You need to know what it is you really want to know." Absolutely, spot on. And she also commented that knowing what it is you really want to know is developed in part through reading the literature and the development of your theoretical framework. Reviewing the literature, which you should hopefully all be doing right now, is a hugely important part of the heuristic circle. It allows you to develop an understanding of what is already known in a particular area. It also might help you identify whether the ways in which that information has been gathered have been the right ways, the best ways, if there's other ways to gather better information or knowledge. And then you might also find that there isn't that much in your specific area, and so I kind of describe that as reading around what it is that I'm interested in, and you might have to take a wider net and look at things. So there's one that's looking at career decisions of related service providers. There may or may not be a lot of literature on that. You may have to read literature on teacher career decision making, or medical personnel decision making, or more general theories about employment decision making to help you form an understanding of what it is that you really want to know. Some of you noted that our readings did not differentiate clearly between a conceptual and theoretical framework. I am also kind of that mind that whatever you call it, it's not as important as what is actually contained within it, which is the identification of the concepts and theories that you will use in developing your study, and also the lens through which you are going to interpret your data. You may use a single theory, or what I like to do is to bring together two or more theories in new ways to help push knowledge in an area. I think that's actually my strength as a researcher, is that I am a really broad reader and I like to draw together theory from different areas. So the examples are, I've looked at theories of distributed leadership and performance adaptation, and then I try to help the reader see that, we have this theory of distributed leadership, how leaders go about kind of helping teachers engage in instructional improvement through their own work, but also through coaching and teacher leaders. And then performance adaptation is theorized as a process through which individuals and groups actually change their day-to-day behavior. And so I kind of try to link these up, that if educational leaders are doing certain things, then that kind of drives the performance adaptation of teachers in the classroom. I've also used absorptive capacity and leadership, particularly how leaders sort of engage in what's called adaptive leadership, where they might broker, bridge, or buffer. They control how much things are kind of going in and out of their organization, and that they can kind of use those leadership practices to take what is good about a policy and help it further what it is they're doing already, or they can push back against that policy and kind of buffer teachers from some of the things that often are negative within educational policy. So it looks like everyone's done some thinking about their sample, which is really Awesome. Happy to hear that. As you move forward, think about how you're going to justify your sampling decisions. For some of you, you've identified maximal variance sampling, whether you've used that term or not. And you need to explain to your readers why. Why is it important that you're going to look at individuals from across the career span? You're going to want to draw on previous research that helps you identify what might be different about a novice teacher, a mid-career teacher, and an end-career teacher. And making sure that if you are using maximal variance sampling, that you are choosing a variable of considerable interest that was going to provide you that variance, and making sure that you're using research to back up that decision. And just sort of regardless of what type of studying, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, part of the methodology section that you'll write is essentially, and also the literature review, is essentially justifying the decisions that you've made in designing your study. And then lastly, there were just still some misconceptions, I think, about bias and generalizability in qualitative research. Generally, qualitative researchers are not adhering to a positivist worldview. There are some who take a post-positivist worldview, such as Robert Yin. But generally, we tend to take an interpretivist, constructivist, critical approach. And so in those research paradigms, we're not attempting to create a sort of false, artificial objective standpoint. We're saying, it does matter who we are in the research process. We do come at it with a particular understanding of the world that we've developed through our personal experiences that we've developed in what it is that we choose to read and understand. And so rather than kind of trying to eliminate bias, what we really want to do is surface our viewpoint and help people understand where it is we're coming from. So even if they don't share that viewpoint, that they can kind of see how it is we got to our findings. Again, so we're not looking to generalize to a large population. Rather, qualitative research gives us a really deep look at a particular phenomenon, a particular experience, event, or process, usually within a particular context and for a particular group of people. We're not interested in statistical generalizability through inferential statistics. We might use theoretical generalizability, which is sort of developing new theories that might be applicable in other contexts, but we're always going to be focusing on what is that significant detail in those contexts in which the theory was derived that can help other people understand the extent to which that theory may or may not fit their context. I mentioned Robert Yin. I'm not sure where my there it is. Robert Yin is actually the methodologist that I started my research sort of journey with. This is his book, Qualitative Research from Start to Finish. He also has written significantly on case study, but he tends to be sort of more of a post-positivist approach, and I think for some of you who might be just a little more quantitative at heart, a little more black and white in your thinking, not that there's anything wrong with that, or who simply just might want more structure in their research, particularly starting off, this idea of this sort of unstructured, nebulous journey can be really anxiety-producing. So Robert Yin is a really great place to pick up and take a look at his work, in addition to the Merriam and Tisdale and Maxwell books.